Yes, the internet is buzzing with excitement after years of mystery, because for the first time, the world has finally heard the voice of Barron Trump. For so long, he was the quietest kid in the room, yet somehow the one everyone's eyes were drawn to. No yearbook photo, no casual lunch in the cafeteria, his name hidden under an alias in the school system. And now one of his classmates has finally broken the silence. What they revealed feels almost unreal. Encrypted gadgets, unspoken codes, strange daily habits, and rare, fleeting glimpses into Barron's true self. From secret football matches that nobody was supposed to see, to the gleam of a $50,000 Rolex flashing on his wrist. This is not the Barron you thought you knew. Why was he kept so hidden? And what did this classmate feel the world needed to hear? Let's find out. But before we dive deeper, we truly appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying this video. And if you just clicked it, thank you, sincerely. Now, let's step behind the gates. Inside the walls of the Oxbridge Academy with Barron Trump, life felt surreal. He was there, yet almost invisible. He walked the same polished hallways, sat in the same classrooms, maybe even stood just a few steps away from you at the vending machine. And yet, many students said that going to school with Barron felt more like going to school near Barron. His name didn't appear in the school's records. No yearbook photo, no chatting over lunch. As the son of a president, Barron was like a ghost gliding through this $30,000 a year fortress. So who exactly is Barron Trump? Why was he shielded so carefully from the world? And what, in the end, did this classmate reveal that left everyone stunned? Back in 2017, the very year his father took the oath as the 45th President of the United States, Barron quietly began attending Oxbridge Academy in West Palm Beach, Florida. While most high school kids were worrying about acne, exams, and weekend plans, Barron's life was already unfolding in the shadows of history. Forget casual science tests or lunch plans. Barron was walking into a school that was unlike anything most teenagers could imagine. Oxbridge Academy was no ordinary college prep high school. It was founded by a billionaire, staffed with hand-picked educators, and built with one purpose: to serve the elite. Small class sizes, an almost one-to-one student-faculty ratio, cutting-edge technology at every turn, and above all, privacy, not as a suggestion, but as an unspoken law. This was the kind of place where the children of tech CEOs, hedge fund billionaires, and even members of royal families could study in peace, and where someone like Barron Trump could quite literally disappear into the background. But what happens when the person who's supposed to remain invisible suddenly has his story told by someone who saw it all, then vanished? From the very first day, Barron's time at Oxbridge was wrapped in layers of security no other student had to face. His arrivals and departures were coordinated down to the minute with the United States Secret Service. Agents moved through the campus discreetly, blending in, yet always alert. While other students arrived by a school bus or with their parents, Barron pulled up in dark SUVs, the kind that spoke volumes without saying a word. Tinted windows, subtle hand signals exchanged between agents. You couldn't miss the weight of power surrounding him, and yet that very presence made him feel even more distant from the rest. Strangely, his real name didn't even exist in the school's accessible systems. According to the classmate who has now come forward, Barron was enrolled under an alias. His real name never appeared on class rosters or in any publicly visible record. Teachers and school officials were reportedly instructed to use only his pseudonym outside of official paperwork. Why go to such extreme lengths? The answer was clear: to protect him from cyber threats. Any hacker trying to break into the school's database to track Barron's schedule would find themselves chasing a digital ghost. That's how seriously his safety and privacy were guarded. And could this complex secrecy be part of what his classmate risked everything to reveal? It's hard to say, but one thing is certain: it worked. Most of Barron's classmates still knew exactly who he was. After all, you can't exactly overlook a 6'9" teenager whose father happens to be one of the most polarizing political figures of our time. Knowing about Barron is not the same as truly knowing Barron. And that's when the mystery thickened. He never appeared in any group photos. If he did, he was always on the edge of the frame like a shadow. or gone entirely. Class photos, yearbooks, sports team shots, none featured him. Even on social media, students were quietly told never to post his image, whether by accident or on purpose. It wasn't an official rule, but an unspoken understanding. You know you can't tag him, you can't mention him online, one classmate recalled. In that silence, a kind of legend formed. Where did he go after school? Did he have a separate lunch schedule? Or was he even real? He was real, very real, and impossible to miss, especially at 6'9", making him one of the tallest students at Oxbridge, impossible to overlook in any hallway or classroom. Yet his presence was deliberately muted. Measured steps, distant posture, as if living in a parallel world. Unlike most teenagers craving attention or validation, Barron avoided both, skipping dances, dodging pep rallies, never attending prom, rarely seen at games despite his natural build for sports. It's like he's playing a completely different game, one student said. And now, after years, the wall of silence has finally cracked. An insider is ready to tell it all, revealing details never before known to the press. The secret high school life of Barron Trump is about to be unveiled. From code names and encrypted devices to secret routines and unusual emotional walls, this classmate's first-hand memories paint the clearest picture we've ever had of what it was like to be near Barron Trump. But who is this anonymous source, and what finally pushed them to speak? Based on interviews and anonymous tastes shared on public forums, the source is believed to have shared at least 2 classes with Barron at Oxbridge Academy. What gives their account extra weight is the sheer, almost impossible to fabricate level of detail. They say they waited until after graduation to speak out, partly out of respect for Barron's privacy and partly out of fear. Now that school is behind them and the extreme security measures around Barron's daily life have eased, this classmate decided it was time to tell what it was really like to go to school alongside him. Why speak now? The classmate insists it wasn't about chasing fame. It was about curiosity, closure, in the sense that people thought they knew him when they really didn't. What stood out most about Barron, they said, wasn't his fame or security detail, but his energy. He wasn't just the president's son, the classmate recalled. He was a completely different kind of person. I've never met anyone like him. This wasn't admiration or sarcasm, it was genuine bewilderment. They remembered moments when Barron seemed almost too calm for a teenager, calm in a way that felt deliberate rather than shy, always keeping a certain distance. He wasn't trying to fit in, nor was he trying to stand out. He seemed to hover just beyond reach. In fact, some students didn't even realize who he really was until months after the school year began. Despite his towering height and a face recognizable from the news, Barron was officially registered under a different name, not just in school records, but among students themselves. They were subtly told that this tall kid belonged to a private family and they shouldn't ask questions. Barron never corrected anyone. Strangely, his classmate recalled, we didn't know who he really was until someone accidentally let it slip. I thought maybe he was the child of a foreign diplomat. I would have never guessed, the son of Trump. One of Barron's most consistent habits was his total refusal to eat on campus. He never brought food, never accepted food, never touched anything from the cafeteria. His classmates said he might sit, listen, maybe talk a bit, but never eat. While some speculated it was a diet or even an eating disorder, the classmate offered a different explanation. Security concerns. There's always the risk of tampering, they said. The idea that something as simple as a sandwich could be a security risk might sound extreme. But for a presidential family, it's standard protocol. He probably wasn't even allowed to chew gum, the classmate added. The social dynamics around Barron were equally unusual. The classmate described an unspoken rule among students. Don't approach him unless he approaches you first. Nobody ever stated it outright. It was just understood. He could be in the same room and people would act as though he wasn't there unless he initiated contact. Sometimes he did, but most of the time he kept to himself. He wasn't unfriendly, the classmate explained. He was just observing, like he was always 3 steps ahead in any conversation. Was that quiet vigilance the result of years of training to spot threats, weigh options, and guard everything? even his words? One moment stuck with the classmate during a closed-door group project. Someone joked about the school's new surveillance cameras, and without looking up, Barron said coldly, "I know more about surveillance than the teachers." People laughed, but then the room fell silent, because nobody was sure if he was joking. It was the kind of laugh you have at first, then realize maybe it wasn't funny at all. There were even stranger stories, not just about his behavior, but about his technology. According to the classmate, Barron never used the school's standard laptop or tablet. Instead, he had his own device, something that looked like a cross between a tablet and a military-grade encrypted laptop. Clearly, that wasn't normal. They said the logo was covered, and he never left it unattended. Not once. Guess? It was a secure encrypted device provided by the Secret Service, built for safe communication but disguised to blend in. He was like part student, part secret agent, the classmate joked. At big school events, proms, pep rallies, graduation rehearsals, Barron was notably absent. He skipped the graduation rehearsals. He didn't go to dances. The only time he showed up was at the actual graduation, where he arrived quietly and left quickly with 2 agents escorting him. It didn't feel like he was graduating with us, just passing through the event, the classmate recalled. Emotionally, Barron was almost unreadable. He never opened up about personal matters. No holiday stories, no family talk. One student called him a walking blank page, but sometimes that page would crack. The classmate remembered a rare moment during a discussion about last names, when Barron quietly said, "I just wish people would talk to me without thinking about him." No explanation, just those words. Everyone knew he meant Donald. "That was the closest I ever saw him come to showing frustration," the classmate said. Despite the emotional walls, the silence, and the rules, students still noticed Barron. They respected him, maybe even liked him, quietly. "We respected him a lot, but we didn't really know how to include him," the classmate admitted. "You didn't want to break the unspoken rules around him, even if you weren't sure what those rules were." But what truly stood out were the small human moments Barron would sometimes share. Helping classmates with notes, offering a dry but well-timed compliment, or giving a subtle nod when someone said something smart. It felt like he didn't want to blend in, but he also didn't want to stand against us. Maybe those quiet gestures are why I felt compelled to share this story, because no one else ever noticed them, the classmate said. In the end, this picture of Barron Trump is not coldness, arrogance, or isolation. It's of someone deeply in control, sharply observant, and truly one of a kind. Whatever rules he lived by, whatever challenges he faced, he handled them with a maturity most teenagers never reach. What happened next? Barron Trump after high school. In the fall of 2024, Barron enrolled at New York University's Stern School of Business. It might sound ordinary, but Barron is no longer the quiet kid hiding in the back. He's re-emerging. And what we're seeing now isn't the high school ghost of Oxbridge Academy, but a young man. Adults quietly and deliberately shape a future no one expected. According to sources close to the family, Barron's choice to attend NYU was not a random decision. It was a strategic one. NYU gave him exactly what he needed: a rigorous academic program, a bustling city that offered anonymity, and proximity to the Trump family headquarters at Trump Tower. During breaks and weekends, Barron was said to return to the tower to avoid dorm life and maintain the same level of private security he had had for most of his life. NYU wasn't just about business studies. It was also about managing public exposure and navigating life in a city famous for both opportunity and obsession. So why didn't he choose Wharton, the University of Pennsylvania's business school, where his father studied? That question sparked speculation. The answer might reveal more than Barron would ever say out loud. By bypassing Wharton, Barron could be signaling a desire to break away from the family legacy and create his own path. While Ivanka and Don Jr. leaned on the Trump name from the start, Barron always kept a deliberate distance. Choosing NYU over the legacy institution could be his way of carving out professional, mental, and social space between himself and the identity the world had long assigned to him. Perhaps this was the first step in Barron Trump redefining who he really is. Since starting college, classmates describe him in ways that suggest the mystery hasn't disappeared. It has only changed. They call him polite, serious, extremely composed, and often quietly charming. Unlike in high school, he's no longer withdrawn. He participates more in class, asks questions, and even shows up at certain group events. Yet he still keeps a significant distance. One student said, "He talks to people now, he shows up, but there's still something guarded, like watching someone who always knows the cameras are rolling." Barron has reportedly become popular, especially among female classmates, not because of celebrity allure, but because of quiet curiosity and a protective intrigue. He isn't loud or flashy, but his presence draws people in, even if they don't fully understand him. He's been seen attending private tech seminars hosted by professors and alumni, quietly sitting through advanced talks on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data privacy. Some believe he's quietly networking, discussing projects and internships without making any public announcements. And then there's the Rolex. In March 2025, Barron was spotted returning to Trump Tower with Melania, wearing a Rolex Daytona worth over $50,000. It wasn't the price that caught attention, it was the shift in his demeanor. Until then, Barron had kept a modest, discreet public presence. But this time was different. The watch, the tailored suit, the confident posture all signaled someone who knew exactly the message he was sending. He was no longer a kid. For the first time, he displayed confidence openly. What made this moment even more fascinating was the emotional backdrop. Barron wasn't just raised in the spotlight, he was carefully managed behind the scenes. From the very beginning, Melania Trump was determined to shield her son from the chaos of the presidency, making choices, sometimes controversial, to keep him away from interviews, photo shoots, and press events. The result was a boy who learned to observe rather than perform, someone who knew when to step forward and when to disappear. Even now, Barron does not post publicly on social media. He has never been TikTok famous, never tweeted a single thing. His generation lives online, yet he exists in the spaces between and still, people talk about him, sharing sightings, whispering stories, and recounting anonymous encounters. Somehow, without saying a word, he remains the center of attention. According to a former classmate, Barron's quiet refusal to compete is exactly where his power lies. He never feels the need to prove anything, and that is what makes him stand out. He's not trying to be mysterious. He simply is. In a world obsessed with being seen, Barron has built a presence that is discreet yet deeply self-aware. Such restraint is rare, and that level of control is learned, and so far, he has shown he doesn't need politics to make an impact or a public platform to remain relevant. His talent, decisions, and boundaries suggest someone who understands perfectly how influence works, even in silence. In fact, his greatest strength may not be his background or education, but his ability to navigate spaces of power without losing control of his own story. As the world continues to watch Barron Trump with curiosity, speculation, and a touch of admiration, one thing becomes clear: his silence is not accidental, it is intentional. And now, for the first time, it's time to understand what that silence means and why he protects it. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content.